Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Jackie. I hope you hit that subscribe button to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Grab yourself a beverage. We're going to talk about all the books that I read while on vacation, and they're all Kindle books and they're all on Kindle Unlimited, so I give you a mini book review, some recommendations, and yeah, all that fun stuff. So let's just start the video, shall we? Cheers! So I just got back from a 2-month vacation in the Philippines, so I mean it's been a month now since I've been back, so I can't say I just got back. I took my Kindle with me. I have the Kindle Paperwhite and I did a whole video about it, unboxing it, decorating it. I mean the stickers look different because I tend to like change them out and like rearrange them. I like these stickers. I'll link everything down below, as well as that Kindle video that I mentioned. But since I was going on a 2-month vacation, I was limited on what I could bring, like book-wise. I was going to bring like one paperback book, but my carry-on was already full enough, so I knew my Kindle could hold so many books, so I downloaded so many onto here. And then while I was in the Philippines, I could actually download books over there as well. It's because I had a US Amazon account and it was still linked up. I just had to use Wi-Fi. So if you're wondering if it works abroad, it does. You can still like download books. That is my experience. It might be totally different, but the Kindle was my best friend. I feel like I only read 17 books, which is a lot. Like 17 books over the span of 2 months, I feel like is okay. You have to like also know that I was enjoying family time. Like I wasn't reading all the time. It wasn't one of those vacations where I just sat around and read, even though I did on most days. It was so nice not creating content or anything, just enjoying my family, reading whenever I wanted to, reading whatever I wanted to. Like I didn't really give myself a TBR. I just mood read the whole like 2 months and it was amazing. So those are all the specs, my Kindle information, all that fun stuff. And now I have a list on my phone of all 17 books that I read. It's no longer on my Kindle because I exchanged them out. Let's move on to the books that I read, all 17 of them. I read The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I was in the middle of this series before I left, so this was the beginning of April. I started Mile High, and then right afterwards I was so busy packing and everything, so I only managed to finish Mile High. I wanted to read Mile High because I knew I was going on a plane, but I unfortunately finished it. So I was in the middle of The Right Move, which I love this series. I think it's called the Windy City series. It's getting so much hype on Book Talk. I know the third one's coming out later, like this year. I don't know, like I know it's coming out this year, I just don't know when. But it was so cute. I loved that I read like she was a flight attendant while I was on a flight, and this book was everything. I gave it a 5 stars. Everything about this book was so good. Like it's been a few months now since I read it, 3.5-ish months, so I'm forgetting a lot of the details, but I know I gave it a 5 stars because there was just some scenes in the book that made me bawl my eyes out. Maybe because I was like 30,000 feet in the air. That's why, or I don't know, but I honestly love the book. I love the sports aspect of it, and Indy was such a fun character. And then Shay, is that, or it was Ryan Shay, that was his name. He was just the best book boyfriend, and I saw all the hype about him, and it's true, the hype about him is real. Like he really studies sign language so she can talk, or he can talk to her dad, and I'm like, that is what I want in a man, because I would want them to like bond with my dad since I'm so close with him. So yeah, I gave it a 5 stars. I only read that book on the plane, and I did other stuff in between, so that is the first book that I technically read. To wrap it up, The Right Move by Liz Tomford. It was a 5-star for me, and it was a great book to kick off my vacation with. So I had to pull up the list on my phone because I honestly forgot all the books that I read. So this is essentially like an April, May, June reading wrap-up, honestly. So the next book that I read is In a Jam by Canton, I think is how you say it. I don't have a lot of the pronunciations memorized or who wrote them memorized. This is just on the top of my head. I'm surprised that I remember it. So this one I knew I wanted to read. It felt like a great transitional book. Like I just wanted a sweet small town romance, and this was it. And it had a lot of my favorite tropes. It had the marriage of convenience, a single dad romance technically. I don't think he was like the dad. I think it was his niece or something, but essentially it's like he was raising a kid. So honestly, from what I remembered about this book, I enjoyed it. I would have to look up on my Goodreads what I gave it. I don't know if it was a 4-star or a 5-star. I'm leaning towards it was a 4-star read. It was really quick. I remember reading it in like an afternoon when I was like doing nothing. All my cousins were busy. I had no responsibilities. I could just lay in bed and read all day. Also, I feel like the summer storm came in, so yeah, I just remember loving this book. It had a lot of like jam talk because like he owned a farm, he was a farmer, and like she had a tulip farm, and I honestly forgot the names of both of them, but it was essentially a very cute romance. Did love it, enjoyed reading it, and it did make my afternoon go faster. So yeah, I think it was a 4-star read. So that was the second book that I read. I was still on my sports romance kick when I read the next one. I read Stealing Home, and I honestly forgot the author. I think it's Grace Riley. I'm not sure. I don't have anything up in front of me to confirm it, but here's the picture. I can't see anything, but you can because I edited it in already. So this was a 3rd book in the, I honestly don't remember what series it was a part of. I remember it was a football romance, the first book. The second book was a hockey romance. And then the third one, Stealing Home, is a baseball romance. They are like siblings, so the three male main characters were siblings. They were all a part of like the thing, but they all play different sports. Really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4-star as well. Honestly though, I do not remember anything about this book besides it had like she was a black cat and he was like a golden retriever kind of relationship, and she was very smart, into science, and she was the best friend of the female main character in book 2. So that's how they met, and they live in this house on a, oh, it's also a college sports romance, not professional. I mean, they go on to become professional, but like it starts out in college, and honestly pretty good. Gave it a 4 stars. And yeah, that was the 3rd book that I read. I feel like those were the 3 that I read in April. As I said, I was so busy, preoccupied with all the other kind of things, so I didn't read too much in April. I might have read like 3 or 4. I might have included like Mile High. I would have to like check back on my reading status. But we move on to all the books that I read in May, and I wanted to read a series again because I just finished like the other series. So I'm like, you know what, I want to start a series while I'm here, see what's out there. So I finally read, I think it's called the Kane Brothers series, but I read A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn, and I heard so much hype about this on Book Talk that I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to download all 3 books and read them on my Kindle. So A Not So Meet Cute had a very cute meet cute, and then it turns into Grumpy Sunshine enemies kind of thing. So the main guy, I honestly forgot his name. Is his name Huxley or something? I don't know. I don't remember characters' names. I hardly remember the stories. I should have wrote more notes down about this, but I really enjoyed this book 4 stars, very spicy, very good commentary about that. And yeah, I see why this series is so hyped up. It's really entertaining to me. I really enjoyed it, and the female main character was so fun, and I just love that. I love the concept of it. Like, she needed a rich husband because she got fired from her job, and she like walks around this rich neighborhood trying to hope that she can like run into like her future husband, and I mean, it works out. I should try that. Like, I miss I think it took place in Beverly Hills, and like they were mentioning some of the places, and I'm like, I used to live real close to that area, and I went there. I'm like, I wish I still lived in West Hollywood so I could just mosey on over to Beverly Hills and do what she did, because yeah, I think that's why I gave it 4 stars. I loved that about it. So Not Meant to Be is the second one. I didn't enjoy as much. So they are 3 brothers. I know they're the Kane brothers, and they're all billionaires, and it's one of those billionaire romances that seems so unrealistic. They have private jets, and I remember there were some good cookies, I think, in this book. Like, I remember this in the second book, the main character was the sister of the first book. So the 2 sisters go out with 2 brothers. I didn't find that weird because I actually have 2 uncles who married 2 sisters as well, so I've heard about it. It was pretty good. I think I still gave it a 4 stars. I think now, if I look back on it, it was a 3.5 because I enjoyed the first one more than the second one. The second one was really grumpy, angry. Oh, and I also didn't like it because his name was JP and my cousin was JP, and reading about that next to my cousin named JP was not it. So definitely bumping it down to 3.5 stars. And then now we move on to the third book, A Long Time Coming, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I enjoyed it the most. I have to bump this one up to a 4.5 because it was my favorite out of the 3. Like, he was so nerdy. He was like the youngest brother, and like he has this like it wasn't childhood friend. I think it was like a high school friend, so it's like high school sweethearts, friends to lovers kind of thing, and it was done right. I've been complaining about a lot of my friends to lovers have not been entertaining. This one was. I just loved both of them so much, and it was really cute. I love this one the most. Even though I hardly remember what happened in it. I know that she was supposed to get married. He was like her best man, and they were just like such good friends. They lived right next door to each other, and they would knock on their bedroom wall to like say secret codes, good night, all that. And I just thought it was so sweet. And finally when they got together, I'm like, yes, thank you. So really slow burn for this one compared to the other 2. So really good series. I enjoyed reading all 3 of those books. Kept me entertained for the month of May. I just couldn't get enough of starting a series. I had to start a new one. I started the Ravenhood series, I believe is what it's called. Flock, Exodus, and The Finish Line. So honestly, I did not like this series, and it's like now just starting to get like big on TikTok again. It was big, and then I feel like I didn't hear anything about it, and then when I finished it I heard so much about it, or maybe it's just my algorithming or if that's even a word. But this, I feel like I gave this series 3 stars. Like, all the books for me were 3 stars. I just read them because I didn't want to DNF it. I mean, I should have, but I just was really intrigued of what was going on. I heard book 2 you cry a lot. I didn't cry a lot. I did not expect that, like, what happened to happen. Like, I'm not gonna say what happened and be like spoil you for it, because I went in with no spoilers as well. But I didn't really understand like some of it. The first book you really had to push through, and I feel like there was nothing there. It was just setting up the story just to have book 2, and then some people stop there and not read anything after that. I know there's another one coming out in a different character's point of view, so I don't know, I might read it if I get a chance, if I don't like have anything on my TBR and I want to get my like fix on what happened from another character's point of view, but I don't know. I mean, I was really relieved when I finally finished it. It ended off okay, I feel like. I just didn't really get everything, and it was just so like push and shove, and the characters in book 2, I'm like, so I don't know. Honestly, I did not care for the series. I'm glad I read it, figured out like what the hype was about, but it wasn't for me. I skipped over one of the books that I read in April, so it was also dark romance. I read Lilac, so I'm just gonna add it in real quick. That was my first like why choose, I feel like, is what you call those, where she doesn't care who she ends up with and multiple at once. I've never read something like that. I just saw it was like a rock star romance, and I'm like, I miss those. I used to read those all the time back in like 2014, 2015, in that reader era. I read so many rock star romances, so I'm like, let's go back to it. I did give it a 3.5. Maybe I gave it a 4-star, but honestly, looking back, it's a 3.5. It was okay. I just never read anything like that before. Like, I did probably back in like my fan fiction days, where like you can choose anyone you want to and you can get with anyone you want to. Very spicy. It just wasn't me kind of thing. And of course, I had to add on to that by reading Credence by Penelope Douglas next. So after the Ravenhood trilogy, I decided I want more weird and dark and I don't understand in my life. So I read Credence, and I don't know how I feel about it. I just wanted to DNF it so much. Every time I'm like, you don't need to read this. Stop, Jackie. You can like stop reading this. But no, I had to see where the train wreck was going. I had to follow it. I gave it 3 stars. Honestly, I should have gave it something lower. It has like some dark things in it. I didn't really mind it. I was a little freaked out about it, but I'm like, it's a book. I'm not, if it was real life, I would be like, no. But it was a book, so I'm just like, okay, let's see where this is going. I've never read a Penelope Douglas book. I have Punk 57 and Birthday Girl on my like physical like TBR, like they're on my bookshelf beside me, and I just haven't picked those up. And I decided to pick up Credence as my first one because it's on Kindle Unlimited, and I don't really know how I feel about it, honestly. I didn't mind who she ended up with, but it wasn't like my choice. So 3 stars, probably 2.5, honestly. So after those books, I had to give myself a break, and I had to like not read this dark, creepy romances. These would have been perfect for fall. I feel like I should have picked them up in fall, but I was just a mood reading it, honestly. I just picked whatever I saw on my Kindle, and I was like, okay. And I stumbled upon the Cottonwood Cove series, which thankfully was light and fluffy, that it didn't have any dark themes, and I'm like, yes, this is my kind of reading. I am back. The first book was a little bit of a miss for me. It was like a cliche, typical best friend's brother or brother's best friend, something like that, romance. I keep getting my terms mixed up. But it follows the Reynolds family, so they are in Cottonwood Cove, and they follow all the siblings. They have like a group chat. It's so fun. The main guy in this, I forgot his name, but he is a restaurant owner. They took over the restaurant business, and all the different siblings have like different work. So at the time that I read this, only 2 came out. She was like grew up in the town, and it's his best friend's little sister. That's what it is. It's not brother. There we go. It is his best friend's little sister. And yeah, it was just a very cliche thing. I gave it a 3 star, I have to say. It wasn't the best, but I pushed through and I read Under the Stars. So the first one was Into the Tide. The next one is Under the Stars. I liked it better. It was workplace romance, grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers. It was so good, and like the title in it just made it so sweet, and I loved it. And it had like book publishing, and like he was like a grumpy like suit wearing guy, and I just loved it. I gave that one a 4 stars. So I went those 2 books back to back really fast. I just sped through them. They were so good. Next, I read The Newspaper Nanny. This book right here, I read it. I read like, I don't know if it was like the first one or the second one. It was called The Enemy Trap, but it's by the same author. This one I gave a 3 star as well. This book was okay. It was a typical like nanny romance. It's called A Newspaper Nanny for something. And yeah, he just falls in love with a nanny. He was a hockey player. He turned to be a hockey coach for a team, and the girls in this were really sweet. He had like 2 cute daughters, and honestly, it was just a typical nanny hockey romance that I gave 3 stars. Then I read Baby Moon or Bust. So I'm not opposed to the pregnancy trope, the one night stand and leads up to a pregnancy kind of thing. I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. I know some people like cringe and hate it. I don't mind it. I sometimes enjoy it. So I read this one, and this one was a very summery book. I was trying to get into like the summer mood, so I feel like this might have been where like June TBR started, or what, like my June reading started. That's what I mean. So it was okay. It was in 3rd person, which I was reading so many first persons, so going and jumping into like the 3rd person point of view was like a little bit off-putting. That's why I probably gave it, I feel like I would rate it a 3.75. I don't know if I read it 3 or 4 stars on Goodreads. I forgot. But it was okay, and it was really sweet. He was grumpy. They go on vacation to Cancun, or like a baby moon, and he's just so sweet to her bump and to the baby, and it was a pretty good read. Loved it for summer. And then we move on to, I think, the last 2 books that I'm going to mention were the ones before I had to fly home back here to LA. So that was Crimson River by Daphne Perry, a part of the Eden series, and Reckless by Elsie Silver, a part of the Chestnut Spring series. I read those 2 together. Like, I was reading both of those on the plane. I think I got to chapter 20 with Reckless, and then chapter 15 with Crimson River. Loved both of them so much. I gave Reckless 5 stars. I gave Crimson River 4 stars. I love the mystery of it. It was really entertaining and pulling. Like, Daphne Perry does so good, and it reminded me of the first book, Indigo Ridge, because I love that. It was like my first time reading something like that with the romance and the mystery, and I'm like, yes, that give me more. That's why I jumped into the Eden series, and then this one really reminded me of book 1, so I highly enjoyed that. The Reckless, I love Theo Silva. He is amazing. Cowboy romances for life. I know the 5th and final book is coming out. I don't know. I loved the Chestnut Spring series, the Eden series, the Cottonwood Cove series. Those 3 series are like my comfort series at the moment, and I love those book series. So there you have it. Those were all 17 books that I read on my Kindle. Oh, I also wanted to talk about like the charging for this. I charged this right before I left, because you do the night before charge of all your electronic devices before a flight. I'm one of those people. So I charged it then. I charged it once because I was reading quite a bit on it. It had to be like towards the end of May is when I charged it, and I charged it again right before my flight here. So in total, in those 2 months, I charged it 3 times. It probably didn't have to be the second time when like the flight back home, but I charged it just in case, because I did not want to be without this, because it was my baby. This was like my pride and joy for the whole trip, and it saved me a lot of money. I still ended up buying books in the Philippines, but I I love the Kindle. I recommend it so much. There's so many more books on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to wrap this up. I do hope you enjoyed watching this video. I will link every book that I mentioned down below in the description, as well as my book talk and my bookstagram. And that is it. I do hope you enjoyed watching. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye everyone!